And this morning, his 10-minute research showcase is going to discuss TA's digital transformation and building the roadmap and navigating the tech landscape. Please join me in welcoming Chris Allen.
Is this on?
It will be in a minute.
Can you hear me?
And here's your clicker.
The mic's not working and the clicker's not working.
I hear the microphone.
Okay, here we go. So, firstly, a massive thank you for staying in the room. It must be incredibly tempting when someone says a sponsor is going to talk to you about technology over your lunch. So, thank you so much for taking the time to stay. In preparing for this session, I'm a great believer in imagery. And if you can see the cartoons up here, the one I was actually searching for is the one at the top in the middle, which basically summarises what I'm going to talk to you about in the next 10 minutes, which ultimately is someone like a lot of us in the room wanting to talk to you about digital and the importance of technology, and basically not even being able to connect on a conference call, which might feel familiar to some people in this room. There's a lot of talk out there about technology, but I think I speak for everybody when bringing that to life can be a challenge. And as I looked at that image, it's incredible how many cartoons are out there that talk about digital transformation. Literally, Google image search, pages and pages of cynics saying this is a challenge for your organisation. But there's some truth in it as well. If I go across the themes here, if you can't see the screen, the top left is basically saying we would love to do this, but we're going to wait for somebody else to do it first. Right? Digital transformation is important, but let's follow the flock. Let's not do this. Mention the one in the middle, which is, let's face it, if we can't even open a conference call, we are doomed if we're going to try and transform our digital environment. We hear that a lot. On the top right, this huge suspicion that, let's face it, if we're going to digitalise something, we should probably sort out our human processes first. Bottom left, another personal favourite, this is a really strategic priority. Let's get someone under the age of 20 to do this, because let's face it, we've got no idea what we're doing. And then the bottom right, what does it mean to have lots of buzzwords talking about tech, but actually what's the outcome? So there is a lot of truth, I think, in that. And really what I want to spend a few minutes talking through is, especially from a vendor, a partner perspective, when I speak to my peers, everybody wants to do this, but there's very little hard and fast information out in the market on how. So what we decided to do was to commission some research with our partners at Aptitude to actually try and bring some data to where organisations are on this journey. So we run a piece of research for 3 months, global organisations, about 50% of those were large. Really interesting feedback actually, and we can get into the detail if anybody wants to know over lunch, from the small and medium-sized market, where smallest level of responses, but actually the most accelerated change. And we spoke to maybe some people in this room, TA, director level, and the specific questions were about talent acquisition technology, right? So one of the challenges with digital is what on earth is digital, and the survey was very specific to try and get some very specific responses. On the left, this is the view generally in the market. There's a whole host of evidence out there that tells you that digital is important. Okay, it improves retention, it's improving candidate experience, etc., etc., etc. But what our data show is a huge delta between how important it is and how organisations are doing this today. So as a brief summary, 25% of organisations, when we asked the question, said, I don't have any plans to do this. About a third of organisations were kind of in that frustrated, this is really important to me, but I don't have the bandwidth. From a tech perspective, from an HR perspective, I want to do this, but I cannot. And unsurprisingly, 24%, I think I was more surprised to say that it's incredible, 24% of organisations have the budget, So I'll probably replace the only with it's quite insightful and interesting to say 24% of companies have actually managed to build a business case for doing this, but a large majority have not. And there's a global lens to this as well. So with our experience from an Alexander Mann Solutions perspective, we're kind of seeing this on a day-to-day basis, and I think what this is really saying is that, let's go to the bottom first, give or take an average of 10% of companies have really actually managed to say, in a survey, hand on heart, we've done this. And there's very little variation really across the regions there statistically. However, what we are seeing is a real acceleration in the APAC market at the start of the process. So if anybody here has global teams, I definitely recommend you connect with your peers in region because there's a real emphasis and a real momentum in getting things started in Asia. But the overarching theory here, and I hope this is giving you comfort, not concern, is that if you haven't really addressed this yet, you're in the massive minority. 90% of organisations and individuals are getting started, so don't feel like you're lagging behind. So that's what the data said. I think, what does that mean in terms of kind of how do you apply this in your organisation? I think the first thing to say is that change management is change management is change management. So the themes that have been discussed over yesterday and today are going to be equally relevant to the digital process as to more traditional human processes. You need to find out what's going on, you need to establish what impact it's going to have, and you need to execute against that project. So I guess there's a theme here that everybody in this room has the natural skill set to manage this change, but they might be nervous about it because it has the word tech or digital in there. What are the key components of that? The reason that we've highlighted brand here is when you mention the word digital, robots, artificial intelligence, most people's minds go to Terminator 2, if that makes sense, you know, being chased by a terrifying robot that's likely to do you harm. Actually, what we've established and what the research tells us is this is actually an opportunity. It sounds trite, it really does, but there is an opportunity here to do something that isn't being done when you come to brand. So whilst there is an option to look at what are your people doing today, how are your processes working, what's your technology infrastructure, actually the best place to start on this is how are we representing ourselves in the market? Because 99% of companies, when candidates are applying for jobs and even being onboarded, they have humans doing that, and generally speaking, we do it badly. If we acknowledge that and look at technology through that lens, you're not replacing people. You're actually using technology to provide a level of touch that you're unable to deliver today. So I think the short version is if you look at digital transformation through the lens of how do I make this process better for people that don't work for me, it changes your whole game. Because you stop thinking about this is going to be a hard conversation, this is going to be difficult. So think about it in terms of brand would be our recommendation. We nearly took this slide out, but I love it. What this is saying is that over half of companies where they are doing this are relying on their own internal technology teams to deliver it. That means, with no disrespect to any of us, we are number 653 on somebody's to-do list, right? In the current climate, if you need InfoSec involved, if you need technology teams involved, no matter how important this is, I think it's good to be realistic about the priorities that we set ourselves. Go to your CIO and say, I'm thinking of putting some sourcing technology in. He's kind of likely to tell you where to go. But if you look down to the other side of this, meet them in the corridor, talk to us, there's third-party consultants, there's a whole industry out there, there's a whole world of people that are helping people execute this. So whilst this is saying 50% of organisations are trying to do it themselves from their IT teams, with no disrespect, their IT teams, what do they know about HR systems and TA systems? So leverage, blatant plug, the likes of Alexander Mann Solutions and others to close that gap. Why are people doing it? Candidly, number one is the most important. You'd be staggered from the research and from my day-to-day experience When you ask the question, why are you doing this, everybody's like, well, because everybody else is. I've been at so many conferences where I've heard AI, I think we need to do this. That is not necessarily a bad thing. But I think we would recommend that the other three that came out as being more important. There is a change in the landscape. HR systems, applicant tracking systems, complementary technology. There's so much out there to do, you'll never find one that does everything. So you're never going to find a solution in a system that does everything you need it to do. The market is kind of pleasantly congested, if that's a phrase. There's so much coming to market, the choice can be overwhelming, but it's now possible. You can go and buy this. This is not a pipe dream. And again, finally, people are doing it to enhance the candidate experience, as mentioned earlier. So, we've heard a lot about different approaches to technology, actually, over the last day or so, and as it stands, our approach, not to say others are right or wrong, is given the fact that our head of partnership reviewed just under 400 technology platforms last year, right? 400 discrete individual widgets through to systems, navigating that market can be complicated. When we're speaking to, especially heads of TA, but also HR, kind of a sense that if I cleanse my inbox every day of somebody saying I've got the tech to change your world, their life would be slightly easier. There's a lot of people out there talking about this. So, number one, prioritise what you want to achieve, okay? Don't buy a system that does great things or a tool that can revolutionise something that you don't care about, number one. And number two, get some help in navigating that landscape. Speak to your peers, speak to colleagues, speak to organisations, get a sense of how they've done this. Because there's no real hard, fast data out there, but networks matter. Key takeaways. This is ironically more about your people than anything else that you're ever going to do. It's not about replacing them, but it's about how do you complement your internal assets with tech. Start small. For those of you that know me and work with me, this has always been a passion of mine. Don't try and boil the ocean. Get something working and build on it. Don't end up 2 months down the line in a project plan that says, God, we were ready 18 months ago, but this happened, that happened. Grab something small, and to paraphrase Johnny, I'm stealing Johnny Cameron, I know he's not here today, but ride it like you stole it is the way that he talks about tech. Get it going and really, really focus on it. Focus on brand. Understand that many organisations are at the early stage, and this is going to be global, but localise it. And for me, as a conclusion, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is relative. If you investigate something, you invest a small amount of capital and it doesn't work, that's what 90% of the market is doing. So don't be afraid to fail. Have a go and enjoy your lunch. Thank you.